All right, I think we'll get started. It looks like we have quorum. Thank you for joining. Good morning for folks on the West Coast. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Ramsarran, and I'm happy to join you today for our Live on ServiceNow webinar. And today we're going to focus on the CSM Configurable Workspace. Now, typically, we start off with our safe harbor slide. And when I was preparing for this presentation, I asked ChatGPT what would be a most concise way of giving the safe harbor statement. And it came up with a mediocre response. And then I asked it to give me a safe harbor statement as William Shakespeare. And then it came up with an okay response. But with some curation, I think I'm going to give you perhaps the most interesting version of the safe harbor slide that you may have heard so far. And it goes like this. I shall speak of a slide most dear, a safe harbor I do declare, to shield the presenter from all blame. In legal terms, I thus proclaim, to have future projections far and near, to be certain or partly true, as risks and uncertainties do ensue. So that's a little bit of a Shakespearean version. And basically what this means is that you should be making your purchasing decisions based on existing functionality, not forward-looking statements. Now, today's session is actually a part of a series of Live on ServiceNow webinars that we deliver. And these webinars are designed to help connect you with experts and your fellow peers that are very well versed in the product. As you go through the deployment of your product, we want to be able to help you derive real-time value as quickly as possible. So you can join us for this webinar as well as for future webinars. And if you scan the QR code, it will take you to a schedule for upcoming webinars. Just a few housekeeping items. We will save time for Q&A at the end, so please do take the opportunity to post questions and answers. I see somebody is raising their hand. I just want to verify that there's no problem with audio. Okay, we're good. So we will save time at the end for Q&A. The presentation will be recorded and shared on the ServiceNow community. And after this event, you will be prompted to fill out a brief survey. So thank you for your feedback. We appreciate that, as that allows us to continually improve the experience moving forward. In terms of our agenda for today, we're going to have an overview of the CSM Configurable Workspace. We're also going to have a look at some of the continued innovation. Workspaces have actually been out for quite a while, since Rome. We want to give you an idea of what that arc of that journey looks like as we have marched into our more modern workspaces. We're going to do a live demo. There's going to be two demos. One is going to be extending the CSM Configurable Workspace, so how you can take the out-of-the-box workspace and add some additional functionality. We're going to also do a demo of the theme builder, and then we're going to review some resources that you may utilize if you were to migrate from, let's say, Classic UI16 or Classic Workspace, as well as a Center of Excellence, which is the kind of one-stop shop for getting information about Workspace, and then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A. I often like to start off presentation with some kind of thoughtful statement or quote, something more intelligent than I typically come up with. But so when we think about this is from a famous American science writer, Ursula Le Guin, and she said, it is good to have an end to journey towards, but it's the journey that matters in the end. And when I think about workspaces, we are kind of on a journey. Customers have grown up with UI16. They love the interface, but there are some challenges with it. And we are kind of on an arc of our journey as we move towards workspace-based experiences. And in the end, what really matters is that we're driving better experiences for agents and end users. And I hope coming out of this presentation, you will get an appreciation for the flexibility and the experiences that we can create using such workspaces. So let's keep that quote in mind. My name is Ramsarran. I'm a CSM platform product manager. I specialize in our agent experience, our task intelligence, which is our AI capabilities, as well as our workforce optimization product line. And I'm happy to be presenting to you this morning. So the star of our show is CSM Configurable Workspace, and let's get the journey started and see where we journey towards. Now, when we think about CSM Configurable Workspace, the primary purpose of the CSM Configurable Workspace is to help drive agent productivity. And how do we do that? Well, we help them solve cases faster by providing a multitasking, extensible type of environment for them to use. But what does this mean specifically? The first aspect of the workspace architecture is the ability to have a multi-tab user interface. And this allows agents to handle both quick one and done cases that may pop up. Perhaps they're in a call queue and a case immediately arrives that they need to handle. And it also allows them to handle long running or what we call multi-touch cases. So for a lot of service organizations, they may have cases that span multiple hours or multiple days. And it's quite possible that you may have your workspace open with multiple tabs in order to achieve that. The second important aspect of the workspace is that ability to have what I would call a persona-based experience. So when the user is logging into a workspace, we understand what that user's persona is. And based on that, we can tailor which pages appear or don't appear, or maybe what the structure or the layout of those pages may be. So if you are a level 100 intake agent, you may have a very different workspace than, let's say, if you are a level 2 or a level 3 agent. Or perhaps if you are a back office or middle office worker, you would like to have a very different experience as well. The third point here is we have specialized features that are integrated into the workspace. So one such feature is Inbox, which is powered by our advanced work assignment. And what Inbox allows you to do is to accept and reject work based on your real-time presence. So are you available? Are you unavailable? Are you available for chat and email, but not for phone calls, etc.? So Inbox is a very powerful routing technology that allows you to integrate with AWA in order to handle work. We also have sidebar discussion, which enables agent-to-agent collaboration, and the contextual side panel, which we'll double click on in a moment because there's much configuration that you can do with the contextual side panel. And then, of course, there's playbooks. So playbooks, you can look at it from two perspectives. First of all, playbooks enable you to have a process-based experience. So as a case is going through its life cycle, you may want to be aware of the steps that the case moves through. In addition to that, playbooks kind of facilitates cross-team collaboration. In a lot of modern support organizations, there's the front office team that may be working with the middle and the back office team, and we want to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So often we like to say that playbooks are that single pane of glass to see where the case is throughout its life cycle. And finally, we started introducing some user preferences. So users have the ability to select which mode they would like the workspace to be in. Should it be in comfy or compact mode, which can result in approximately 25% savings in screen real estate. In addition to that, users can flip themselves between light and dark mode if they're using the workspace for extended periods of time. So this is designed to help reduce cognitive load and fatigue on the end user. So this is the first perspective of looking at workspaces, but let's double click and have a look at the contextual side panel specifically. So the contextual side panel is this piece of real estate that appears on the right-hand side of the workspace in this green box. And there's a number of features or capabilities that we expose via the contextual side panel. And again, these are all geared towards driving agent productivity, resolving cases faster with better context of the user of the customer that they may be assisting. So the first capability in the contextual side panel is what we call Agent Assist. And Agent Assist is where we have AI-assisted recommendations to expose things such as knowledge-based articles, similar cases, and things of that nature. In addition to that, we have what we call recommended actions. And recommended actions will display little hockey cards in the contextual side panel. And those hockey cards could provide guidances. So they may be a guidance that says, hey, offer this customer this type of discount, or perhaps it could be, you can resolve this case in this manner. In addition to that, beyond guidances, we also have a capability called guided decision trees, which is the ability to have step-by-step instructions to move through making a decision to help solve the customer's issue. So in the contextual side panel via recommended actions, we can expose what we call both guidances and guided decision trees. The third capability we have here is what we call dynamic related records. And the idea here is that as the user is performing data entry, perhaps they're entering a short or long description, we're interrogating the information that they're entering into the user interface and exposing related records. So that could be, hey, this case is similar to these other cases that you're trying to solve, or this case is related to a major case that just flowed into the service organization. And again, this allows the agent to resolve the case faster as that case moves through its support lifecycle. We've also introduced the capability to take the activity stream and have it in different parts of the user interface. So you can have the activity stream in the main part of the screen in the middle here, and you can toggle it. We'll show you that. But if you are dealing with a case that's perhaps more email centric, you may want to actually take the activity stream and pop it into the contextual side panel. So we are giving you the capability to move the activity stream to the specific point of the screen real estate that is optimal for the type of work that is being handled. And finally, and this is pretty important, it's in purple here, we are giving you the ability to extend the contextual side panel with helper applications. So in a lot of service organizations, there could be a very purposeful helper application. Perhaps it interacts with a system of record, some type of back office system. So I worked with customers in call centers where they have like a loyalty app checker, or maybe you want to have a helper app to look up information about truck rolls or shipping manifests and things of that nature. So that ability to extend the configurable workspace and to create a helper application is also a very powerful capability. And in fact, that's what we're going to demo for you in a few minutes today. Now, when we think about the configurable workspace, there's actually two sides of the coin, or two hats to wear, if you would. So far, what we've been talking about the multi-tab user interface. We've been talking about the contextual side panel. We've been talking about what I would refer to as the agent runtime experience. So this is the user interface that gets rendered to the agent to provide them that very productive workspace in order to resolve cases. That's on the left-hand side of the slide. The other experience is what we refer to as the developer experience or the builder experience. And we have also enhanced the builder experience with our tooling, which is called UI Builder. And what is UI Builder? Well, UI Builder gives you the ability to configure and extend workspaces to meet your specific business needs. It gives you flexible options for laying out the screens, including things like grid and flexbox, if you're familiar with that from a traditional web development background. We've also introduced concepts such as record templates, which I'll talk about in a little bit later. But the main thing here is that record templates make the system very reusable and upgrade friendly. And UI Builder also provides 160 plus web components that as a developer, you can leverage when you are building workspaces. And those components include everything from data visualization to modal dialog boxes, to accordion controls, to sliders. There's a vast library of web components that you can use to build custom user experiences. So you should really keep this in mind, that there's the runtime experience that we deliver out of the box, what we call the CSM Configurable Workspace. But the goal here is to enable your organization to build custom experiences for specific personas within your support organization. So let's talk a little bit about some continued innovation that we have driven with regards to UI Builder. And we'll do this just before we hop in the demo. So the first thing was that we introduced in San Diego was what we call the next experience. And the idea here was to start transitioning users from classic UI 16 over to Workspaces. And what we did here was we introduced a more modern user experience, and we kind of unified the navigation. We realized that out of the gates, people weren't just going to flip from UI 16 right into Workspaces. So we gave them a seamless way to move back and forward between UI 16 and Workspaces. We provided more modern aesthetics in terms of pinnable popover navigation, in terms of translucent menus that users were used to seeing in Windows and Mac operating systems, and things of that nature. So this was introduced in San Diego, and this was the next experience. While we were doing that, we also introduced some enhancements to UIB. So UIB, UI Builder, is a WYSIWYG interface for building workspaces, and it allows you to do that leveraging that vast library. We have 160 plus components, and you were able to do that in a manner that was relatively upgrade friendly. So you were able to take a standard page out of the box and create what we call a variant, and you were able to match styling of your organization in terms of customizing the CSS variables and things of that nature. And then in Tokyo, we made one additional enhancement. So prior to Tokyo, in San Diego, we had the two top layers here. We gave you the ability to create layouts and to leverage components and drag and drop them and move them around the layout. Those were the two top layers that we had in San Diego. But there was a little bit of a challenge. When you were dragging components onto the canvas, you had to be aware of a lot of the attributes and settings that you would set on those components. In other words, you needed to know a little bit about the inner working of that accordion control or of that ribbon control, etc. So in Tokyo, we addressed this by introducing the concept of a preset. As of Tokyo, if you dragged a component, a web component, onto the page, the system was smart enough to know all of the styling, the events, the scripts, the data bindings, etc., that were associated with that component, and it would automatically set it for you. So that made components a lot more reusable. The second thing that we did in Tokyo was we introduced this concept of something called a controller. And there were two purposes of a controller. The first purpose of the controller was to enable component-to-component communication within a page. And I'll actually show you this in the demo. So for example, let's say that you had a component like the helper app, and you wanted that helper app to interact with the case page itself. Via the controller, you were able to kind of have components communicate with each other. In addition to this, controllers allowed us, meaning ServiceNow, to maintain a certain level of out-of-the-box components that we delivered, a certain level of control over those components. And what that means is that if we made upgrades to those components, you would inherit those upgrades automatically. And this is a very powerful concept because what it did is it made your pages more upgrade friendly. Previously, prior to Tokyo, if you had created a page, it was kind of like you were forking the page and you were creating your own variant of the page, and it wasn't particularly upgrade friendly. But now with Tokyo, we've addressed that, and you're now able to migrate that page in a very upgrade friendly manner. So this is a subtle but important concept, the idea of presets and controllers. And when I do the demo, you'll see these two concepts surface up in a number of different areas. So when should you make the leap to Workspaces? For our customers that upgraded and deployed to Workspaces in San Diego, they've been doing as much as 90% of their data entry via Workspaces. And in Utah, with the enhancements that we made to UIB, it's very easy and seamless for you to create very personalized and customized workspaces. So we believe that now is the time to make that leap in Utah to implement CSM Configurable Workspace. And later on in the presentation, we'll talk about that. But before we hop into the demo, I'd like to do a quick poll to get an idea of where people are at with regards to their workspace adoption. So we have one single poll question here, and let's go ahead and run that poll. And I'll take a break with my voice while you guys are doing that. All right, 64% participated. We are at federal voting level. Let's go a little more.
Hey,
this is
I'm sorry, I stopped and shared the results. Sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. It's good. Now, this is interesting. It's interesting because it actually has a lot more people on Classic Workspace than I had anticipated. That's interesting, and a lot fewer people in UI 16. So this it's interesting to see how these, when we speak to different customers over time, how this is ebbing and flowing. So we are seeing a more adoption of CSM Configurable Workspace, which is wonderful. Half of the customers are kind of sitting in the Classic Workspace bucket. So I think a lot of what we're going to be showing today is going to be very relevant to people that are on Classic Workspace, because much of our tooling is moving towards UI Builder and the more modern component framework. So we should definitely have an exciting session then. Awesome. So let me clear that poll out of the way. Okay, so let's hop into a demo. So the first demo that we're going to do is about extending the CSM Configurable Workspace. And there's two parts to this demo. The first part is we are going to leverage a helper app. And this is the helper app is called the Agent Scratchpad. And what the Agent Scratchpad is, it's just simply like a little app for taking notes, like you might do in Notepad, for example, but it is going to be embedded within the workspace and associated with the record that you are currently working on. And we're going to show you how to take that Agent Scratchpad application and how to introduce it and inject it into the contextual side panel and light it up. And then the second part of the demo is we're going to show you how to take that Agent Scratchpad and enable it to communicate with other parts of the case screen. So how you can take information from the Agent Scratchpad and inject it onto, let's say, the work notes of the case. So that's what the demo is going to be about. So the application that we are using is called the Agent Scratchpad, and we'll give you the link in order to download this. So you could download this into a developer environment if you want. And this is what the application looks like. So there's the Scratchpad part where you can see the different notes that you have. You can take a note, you can save it, and then it will get injected or associated with the current case that you're working with. So let's go ahead and flip screens a little bit here. So this is where you would go on the ServiceNow developer site in order to download the Agent Scratchpad application. And when you download it, you will get it as an update set, and then you will import that update set into your instance, and then it will register itself with the UIB environment for you to be able to use that helper application. Now, let's go over here and have a look at what our configurable workspace looks like. So first of all, this is the configurable workspace. So there's a homepage associated with the configurable workspace. And the homepage has, again, information that's specific to me as a user that has logged into the system. So it's aware of what my persona is, what the audience is that are logging into the workspace, and it will show different information and also different screens and layouts and things of that nature. As I mentioned before, Workspace is a multi-tab environment. So here we are on case 2850. Here we are on case 2903 and case 9003, etc. And these pages, let's go back over to our main screen here. You can have collapsible sections. So there's the ribbon control here. So if I want to collapse the ribbon, I can do so. Right now, I'm viewing the detailed screen. So we introduced this ability to toggle between different modes. So there, if I wanted to reveal the activity stream, I could do that. If I wanted to go more into a composer mode, I could do this. One of the things that we did in Tussiot was we made this kind of framework very flexible. So you can kind of choose, if you're in this mode, you could be like, hey, I don't want the composer to be in the middle. I want the composer to be off to the side, or I want the composer to go into the contextual side panel. So we took this kind of monolithic page structure and broke it up into different sections to make it very easy for you as a developer to come up with the most optimal interface design. Okay, let me move this go-to box out of the way. But now what we want to do is we want to take this agent scratchpad and we want to, I'm not going to show you the importing of the update set, but what we want to do is we want to inject the agent scratchpad into the contextual side panel and have it appear as an icon over here. So the way we would do that is we're going to go into here and we're going to go into UI Builder. And we're going to bring up the UI Builder. Okay, now I just clicked a go-to box. I hope it didn't change it. There was something blocking my tabs across the top. You guys are still able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So here we are in UI Builder. And the first thing is in UI Builder, you'll notice that we have many different types of experiences. So the main experience that applies to CSM is the CSM Configurable Workspace. But it's important to note that on the Now platform, we have experiences for all of our other product areas. It could be asset management. It could be ACE-based experience, which sounds like an 90s rap group. Anyways, so there's a number of different experiences that you can create here. And we also have this thing called page collections. And you'll notice that the agent scratchpad has been uploaded as a page collection. So when you upload that agent, that update set, it will create a page collection called Agent Scratchpad, which we can reuse in different experiences that we create up above. So I'm going to click on the CSM Configurable Workspace. And let's go ahead and see what this experience looks like. Now, an experience is a collection of pages. This includes everything from the landing page to the 404 error pages. There's a number of different pages, but from a CSM perspective, the page that's most relevant to us is called the record page. And what we want to do is we want to go and create a new record page that we are going to introduce the scratchpad into. So we're going to come up here and we're going to click on page and page variants, and we're going to add a new page, and we're going to create a variant page. And then we're going to select the page from which we want to create a variant. So the page that we want to create the variant from is called the record page. This is that default page for CSM. So let's go ahead and create that variant. And this is the template that I was talking about earlier. So when we select this template, it's going to go and clone that page. It's going to clone the layout, the component, but it's also going to clone those other two layers, the presets and the controllers that we talked about previously. So let's go ahead and do that. Call this custom page 1. And we're going to hit create. And you'll notice that now we have at the bottom custom page 1. And you'll notice that it's the first page. So these pages have order of execution. And because it's the first page, it's the page that will be rendered first by default if there is no other parameters or conditions that have been passed in. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now, this is the structure of the page. It'll take a moment for it to render. So this is what the page looks like. And you'll notice that we have the sidebar on the side, just to give you a little lay of the land of UI Builder. On the left-hand side, there's a navigational tree, and you can click on any component here, and it will take you to that part of the tree structure. Most recently, we introduced the ability to drag and drop components around this tree structure. So if I wanted to, move a flex box up or move a container control up, I could do that. In addition to that, you'll notice that when you're on a specific component, this is where you can visually set different aspects of it. So you might want to set the alignment, the justification. If it's a component that is rendering buttons, for example, you might want to set, does it render the buttons left to right horizontally or top to bottom vertically? There's a lot of attributes and settings here that developers will be familiar with. This is also where you can set up things like event bindings and data bindings and a lot of sophisticated things. But in our situation, we want to do something very simple. We want to click on the contextual side panel. And you'll notice that in the contextual side panel, we have 3 tabs. We have the agent assist, the attachments, and the templates. And the agent assist is presently hidden. But what we want to do here is we want to go and add another tab. So we're going to click on add. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a tab, and we're going to add a tab based on a page collection. So we're going to simply select page collection. And which page collection do we want to add the tab based on? So we're going to go down here and we're going to find our agent scratchpad. And then we're going to hit continue. And you'll notice that now our agent scratchpad has been added as a tab to the contextual side panel. So let's go ahead and hit save. And if life is good, when I go back here and I re-render the page, sometimes you may have to do a hard refresh, but let's just do a simple soft refresh here. And when I re-render the page, if life is good, we should then see the agent scratchpad appear within the contextual side panel. So down here, you'll notice that we now have the agent scratchpad. And then when I click on it, it gets rendered within here. And then what I could do here is I can simply go and create a note, and I can go and say, hey, I need to call the customer back at 8675309. And then I can hit save. And then that note gets saved within the agent scratchpad. Now that's wonderful. So now you have the ability to extend the contextual side panel with a subpage component, which is very powerful. But the next thing we might want to do is we may want to have this component interact with other parts of the page. So for example, let's say that I wanted to have the information that was entered on this component get populated into the work note of the page. So that's the second part of the demo, and let's see how we would go about doing that. So here we are back at the agent scratchpad. And now what we're going to do is here we are back at the record page. And what we're going to do is we're going to modify the agent scratchpad. And so I'm going to click on that tab and I'm going to say edit component. So the agent scratchpad is kind of like a sub page. It's a page within the contextual side panel. So it's what we call a page collection. And you'll see this page collection get rendered. And just like the main page, it's going to have a visual presentation layer within it. So here's our agent scratchpad. And let's go ahead and have a look at that. Okay. So this is the agent scratchpad. We had the create button, we had the title, and we had the 8675309. Now what we want to do is we want to modify this a little bit. There's actually a hidden section in here. Let me go down here and see if I can find it. There's a hidden component down here. Let's see. It's hidden right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from a 3 to a 1. And this hidden section here allows us to take a message and save it and give it a label and a note. So that's fine. But what I want to do here is I want to introduce a new button. I want to introduce a button that's called the insert button. And when I click on that insert button, it's going to take information from the scratch pad and pop it over into another part of the record page. So let's see how we would do that. So the first thing that we want to do here is let us make sure that I have the right focus, and then let's click on this section here. So the first thing I want to do here, there's a little bit of a trick here. I want to point out to you that when we add the button, the direction that the button is going to get added in is by row. So that means it's going to add it to the right of the existing button. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select the button itself, and I'm going to duplicate the button. So now we have 2 save buttons, and I'm going to go over to the second save button. Let's go over to the second save button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the label for the second save button to insert. So that's good. And we had the old event handler from the original save button. So let's go ahead and delete that. So I'm deleting the old event handler. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new event handler. I'm going to click on add. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the form. And what we want to do here is we want to do a field update. So this is a field set value. Okay. Now, what field do we want to grab the data from? We want to grab the data from a field that's called work notes. And what value do we want to set? We want to set the value on a form called state.notes. And this is the magic of the controller that's coming in, because what we're doing here is we're taking the agent scratchpad and we're enabling it to communicate with the controller, and the controller is going to pass that information up and over to the main record page. So let's go ahead and click add, and let's click save. Now, if life is good, we should have, I think we also need to click save on there. Now, if life is good, let's go ahead and re-render this page. And when we re-render the page and the component gets re-rendered, we'll notice that it should have a little bit different visual look to it. So let's go ahead and click on here. So we'll notice that those additional fields show up. And we'll notice that there's the save and the insert button. And there's the work note. So if we were to, let's go ahead and paste in our value there, call this customer back 8675309. And we were to click on insert. Oh, almost. It looks like the value, it's taking it as a literal as opposed to, so we probably have to go back. So we're close, but we can see that it is attempting to make the transition, but it's not quite doing it. So let's go back and fix that. Okay, so if we go back over here to the field definition, I wonder. That field binding. Good. Save. All right. This time I'm going to do a, oops, sorry. This time I'm going to do a, just gonna bring up the Java so I can do a hard refresh. All right. Let's go ahead and do that. Do that. Let's click save. Click insert. But before I do that, let's go over here. Nope. Okay. We'll have to, I think I just have the wrong string there. But the point is you can still see that there is inter-component communication. It's just not rendering the correct value. So we'll fix that. But so here we have that the idea is that via the controller, the component is inserting the value into the work notes page. It's just not evaluating what that string it should be associated with. I might be able to get back to that in a moment. Let's carry on with the next part of the demo. So that was a little bit about Agent Scratchpad, the ability to extend the contextual side panel and the ability to enable intra-component communication. The next demo that we're going to do is the theme builder. And the theme builder gives you a WYSIWYG manner of theming your workspaces. So you can auto-generate themes in a wizard-like type of interface. You can preview them. You can actually flip between different themes. So you might have a delivered theme that we deliver out of the box in Polaris, and you can flip back and forth between those themes as required. So let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. So if I click on all and we go into theme builder. Now, before I go into the theme builder, let me actually go into themes and show you what it looked like in the past. So if we went into themes previously, and we were to go into the Polaris theme, for example, Polaris was the name for our theme in San Diego when we did the original introduction. And underneath Polaris, they had a color styling theme. And previously, what you had to do was you would know the different color codes for the different CSS variables, and you would go into this big, long registry to set those values. And to a certain degree, you were kind of guessing what part of the UI those values compare to. So it wasn't the easiest experience to edit codes. It was wonderful that we were now exposing all of those CSS codes for customization, but it was a little difficult to identify it. I kind of referred to this as a WordPerfect reveal code, 5.1 reveal code type of situation. So what we've introduced is the theme builder, and let's show you what that looks like. And you can get this as a store app. And the theme builder has a home where it just kind of describes to you the overall use of the theme builder. In addition to that, you have a manager. So within the manager, you can see the different themes that apply. So there's the out-of-the-box Polaris theme. There's a test theme that I was working on here that we'll drill into in a moment, etc. So if you want to edit a specific theme, you click on the little pencil. And you get a visual representation of the user interface. So this covers everything from the typographics to the fonts to the styling of the boxes and the edges, etc. Let me just change my scope here. And what you have the ability to do is in a guided manner to walk through this. So you have the ability to go through and say, hey, I want the background to be set. And you can do this based on either the RGB or the hex or other color coding formats as well. I think there's one called that I'm not that familiar with. Let's see, Yeah, so you could go in here and you can change the different styling and color codings as required. You could set everything from the borders to the dividers, etc. In addition to that, you can move your way through and you can say, well, what imagery do I want for my logo, and what type fonts do I want, etc. So you can work your way through here and select a specific theme. If you want to apply the theme, you can go back to the manager and you can click on, the apply button. And then it'll warn you, it'll say, hey, Polaris is going to be turned off and this new theme will be turned on. So we can go ahead and we can hit apply. And then we can come back over here and let's go back into our workspace. We may need to refresh it. Let's go ahead and do a refresh and reload our workspace. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to put on all of those new stylings, borders, shapes, fonts, etc. And now we have a new workspace that's themed to look like a Grateful Dead tie-dye shirt. So we can go ahead and do that with theming. So I would encourage you to check out the theme builder. The theme builder is a wonderful way for you to kind of synchronize the workspace appearance with that of your brand or of specific teams or business units that you are supporting within your organization. All right, so that's a little bit about the theme builder. How are we doing on time?
We have 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right, so I'll accelerate a little bit. So once again, we're encouraging you to migrate from UI 16 or classic workspaces onto the new CSM Configurable Workspace. There are a number of resources available to you, everything including best practices and even specific labs that you can walk through to do things like importing list categories or customizing headers and things of that nature. So we will provide you a link for that. There's also the Center of Excellence where they have ongoing events. I think they meet every third Wednesday of the month. They have release specific updates and other additional resources that you can utilize. So the call to action that we have for this presentation is for you to learn more about UI Builder from the Center of Excellence, for you to identify candidate user groups, whether they are UI 16 users or classic workspace users within your user population, and to deploy CSM Configurable Workspace on a Utah instance and create a workspace, play around with it. Go ahead and test drive the Agent Scratchpad application in your developer instance. So once again, a reminder of the ongoing interactive live on ServiceNow series. So you can go ahead and get the schedule from there. And thank you very much for your time. I enjoyed our conversation today.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week, next month.